Chronic pain, the inner demon, back with another one. Now this one is called a crackdown on the Coronation. A lot of people, folks, that oppose the Coronation were getting locked up left and right. And it wasn't publicized on regular TV. They didn't want you to see that. Oh no. They don't want to see the protests. They don't want you to see people that disapprove of Prince Charles becoming king. Just watch, folks.
Did you watch the coronation on Saturday? I'm sure a lot of you did, if not out of respect, then at least curiosity. I can guess what you saw. Long lines of people cheering for the king, a flypast over London, cavalry regiments marching in unison, and of course, the ceremony itself. But here's what you did not see. Take a look.
To actually clamp down on what are our rights to actually protest.
We don't need to be wasting money.
We're paying for it, the taxpayers.
Highest public office in the land should be elected by the people, not inherited.
Dozens of anti-monarchy protesters arrested and taken away. Around 64 of them were rounded up. Their crime? Protesting against the monarchy. Among those arrested was a man called Graham Smith. He heads an anti-monarchy group called Republic. It's the same group behind the Not My King campaign. They planned a massive demonstration on Saturday, but the cops had other plans. They arrested dozens of people and dispersed the others. On what charges though? More than half of them were accused of conspiring to cause a public nuisance. Just let that sink in. Britain is calling protests a public nuisance. Most onlookers criticized the heavy-handedness of the police. They said that the protests were peaceful.
I thought it was outrageous. Our people, the head of Republic, Graham Smith, has had long discussions with the police about what we were going to do, how it was going to be done, what area we would have for protesting, and so on. And yet, at sometime just after 7 o'clock this morning, when they arrived at the square, they were arrested.
It's been more than 48 hours since the arrests. Most of these protesters have been released. Graham Smith himself spent 16 hours in custody. Now he wants answers. He says the police were informed in advance of the plans, what the protesters plan to do, where they plan to do it, and how many people would be present. Listen in.
And I think that they were hoping to stop us from staging a large peaceful protest on the edge of the coronation. I think that that was a spectacularly poor decision for all sorts of reasons, not least because there was no grounds for arresting us, and it is an affront to democracy, an attack on our rights, but also it's backfired in the sense that this has become a major news story over the coronation weekend.
So what excuse do the cops have? The protesters say it was premeditated. The UK government did not want the BBC's beauty shots to feature protesters. They wanted Union Jacks on the screen, not anti-monarchy banners. What's more, the government is still defending it. The Culture Secretary says the police had to quote-unquote make tough choices. Let me tell you what those tough choices were. The cops in London arrested people who were handing out rape alarms. These are safety devices. They make a loud sound when activated. The police say these devices would have been used to disrupt the coronation. So what did they do? They arrested the women's safety volunteers. Talk about great optics. So just to recap, activists in London were protesting against an unelected head of state. The cops ended up arresting them. Even women's safety volunteers were rounded up. Can you imagine if this happened anywhere else? American tanks would be hitting the streets, British ones would be following right behind, but since the king was involved, no such outrage. Not even a word of condemnation from Western capitals. And why just governments? Look at how Western media is covering it. Every BBC report talks about arrests and reactions, but guess which word is missing? Crackdown. How else do you...
Yes, folks. So that's the Eastern world media commenting on what went on in England and how they look at the Western world and how we critique and go about taking actions against, things that's not right. But people have right to protest in their own country. And also, if they're disruptive, they also leave the police no options but to arrest them. That's just the way it goes in every country, ma'am. You're talking about democracy. But look at, maybe you're from Pakistan or Afghanistan or maybe India or somewhere. But just remember, America came into Pakistan, Afghanistan, and those places and made sure women had the right to do what? Go to school, learn to read, and have their own sense of opinion. In your country, in your part of the world, women had no say. If it wasn't for the Western world, in your part of the world, women wouldn't have no say. And maybe you wouldn't have no job on television broadcasting this news right now. It's because of the American and the Western way. I am not saying that they're perfect, because there's a lot of hypocrisy in America, but I'm just saying, and even though the democracy here is also effed up, but we fought and we left your country with women's rights, or your countries with women's rights. Just remember that when you're critiquing the Western world. Ma'am, chronic pain, the inner demon, like, share, subscribe to the machine. Peace.